The night Caroline Mercer's world collapsed didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It came with the cold click of a Mont Blanc pen. Grant Holloway, the man she had loved for 5 long years, pushed a stack of papers across their marble kitchen, island papers, that still smelled like ink and betrayal. He didn't even look at her stomach, where their unborn child pressed gently beneath her sweater. In his Armani suit and perfectly gelled hair, he looked more like a CEO closing a merger than a husband ending a marriage. "I'm leaving, Caroline," he said, voice flat, rehearsed. "Naomi and I are moving to Beverly Hills. It's better this way." Better for him, he meant. Better for his reputation. Better for the rising model who made him feel powerful. Better for the image he curated so obsessively. Caroline felt the room tilt, the floor slipping under her feet as if Manhattan itself had shifted. She whispered, "I'm pregnant, Grant." He barely flinched. "Get it handled. Or don't. Not my problem anymore." Her breath cracked like glass. The man who once kissed her forehead every night now refused to meet her eyes. The man who held her through panic attacks now checked his Rolex, impatient to leave. When the elevator doors closed behind him, the apartment fell silent except for Caroline's heartbeat, unsteady and terrified. She clutched the edge of the counter, fighting the dizziness rising in her chest. The stress, the shock, the fear, all of it collided until she could hardly breathe. She staggered toward the door, desperate for air, desperate for anything but this suffocating emptiness. Outside on Fifth Avenue, the lights blurred, the city spinning as her vision darkened. Her knees buckled, and just before she hit the pavement, a pair of strong hands caught her. A billionaire she had never met was about to change her entire fate. The world outside Grant's penthouse was viciously cold, the kind of Manhattan winter night that cut straight through wool coats and broken hearts. Caroline Mercer stepped onto the sidewalk with nothing but her handbag, a thin sweater, and a hollow ache where her future used to be. The wind stung her cheeks as she walked, trying to steady her breathing, but the shock of Grant's words kept pounding inside her skull. He left her. Not just emotionally, completely. No home, no job, no health insurance, and a baby she had to protect with a body already fragile from a heart condition she'd fought quietly for years. Fifth Avenue shimmered with luxury stores, Cartier, Dior, Tiffany, places she used to pass by on her lunch breaks, imagining a future where Grant would buy her a ring just because. Now the bright displays felt like a cruel spotlight exposing her humiliation to the whole city. Her phone buzzed. A message from Grant. "Please do not contact me again. Naomi and I will issue a statement tomorrow. Keep quiet, and things will be easier for you." Easier? Caroline's chest tightened until every breath felt like it scraped her ribs. She kept walking, one shaky step at a time, past tourists, snapping photos, and Wall Street executives rushing home in black coats that looked as sharp as their bank accounts. No one knew she was falling apart. Her vision wavered. A warning sign. The cardiologist had told her stress could trigger an episode, but she didn't even have access to her medical chart anymore. Grant had canceled her coverage the moment he filed the divorce. Her knees buckled. She grabbed a lamppost, forcing herself upright. "I can't, not now," she whispered. A couple walked past her without stopping. A taxi splashed slush over her boots. The world kept moving, uncaring. She looked up at the skyscrapers piercing the night sky, feeling impossibly small. Manhattan was a city of winners, and tonight she was failing at even standing. Her stomach tightened, a sharp, twisting pain. Not the baby. Please, not the baby. She pressed a hand gently over her abdomen. "Hang on," she whispered. "I'll figure this out." But the truth was brutal. She had nowhere to go. Her family in Ohio could barely afford groceries, let alone emergency medical care. She had no savings. Grant had controlled everything. And the company she'd worked at for 6 years had escorted her out the moment she signed the dissolution forms. Her heart pounded harder, faster, too fast. The sidewalk tilted, her ears filled with a high, buzzing ring. She tried to inhale, but her chest refused to expand. People passed her, shadows and shapes, their movements too quick, too distant. She stumbled forward, reaching instinctively toward the golden glow of the Plaza Hotel entrance. Maybe they had warm air. Maybe she could sit. Maybe she could breathe. Instead, the marble steps blurred. Her hand missed the railing. The world wavered like a broken camera lens. She collapsed to her knees, the cold concrete biting through her skin. Everything spun lights, voices, the city itself bending and stretching like a nightmare. I need help. Her voice was barely a whisper. Just as her vision dimmed, a figure stepped into view, a tall man in a dark overcoat, his shadow blocking the glare of the streetlight. She didn't recognize him, but something about his stance felt steady, grounded, unshakable. He knelt beside her. Hey, stay with me. You're going to be okay. His voice was deep, calm, certain. But Caroline's world was fading fast. She didn't know it yet, but this stranger was about to pull her life into a future she never dared to imagine. Caroline drifted in and out of consciousness, the world around her melting into scattered lights and muffled sounds. The man kneeling beside her spoke again, his voice steady but urgent. Can you hear me? She tried to answer, but only a faint breath escaped her lips. The stranger glanced at the tremor in her hands, the pallor creeping across her face, and the way she protectively cradled her belly. His expression shifted determination, sharpening like a blade. Without hesitation, he slid one arm beneath her back and the other under her knees, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. His coat smelled faintly of cedar and winter air. Caroline felt her head lull against his chest as the city swirled away. He moved quickly toward a sleek black Mercedes S-Class parked at the curb, its engine still running as if waiting for him. The driver jumped out, startled. Mr. Pierce, sir. What? She needs the hospital. Now, the man ordered. Mr. Pierce. The name rattled in Caroline's fading mind. Sebastian Pierce. Even half-conscious, she recognized it. Everyone in finance did. Founder of Pierce Dynamics. Billionaire innovator. The man who'd once been featured on the cover of Fortune, next to the words, "The mind that will redefine America's future." What was he doing here? Why was he helping her? The driver swung open the back door, and Sebastian gently eased her inside, keeping one hand on her shoulder to steady her shaking breaths. It's okay, he murmured. Stay awake if you can. But the city lights smeared into streaks of gold and white. Her eyelids drooped. Sir, Mount Sinai or New York Presbyterian. Call ahead. Tell them we're coming. The car sped off through the traffic, weaving between taxis and delivery vans. Sebastian stayed beside her, monitoring every shallow rise of her chest. She clutched his sleeve without realizing it. Fingers weak but desperate. Heart, she whispered. He leaned closer. You have a heart condition? She nodded faintly. And pregnant, he added quietly, more to himself than to her, noticing the strain on her abdomen. His jaw tightened, anger flickering across his face, but not at her. At whatever had pushed her into this state. You're safe now, he said. But Caroline was slipping again. Her breathing hitched. The pressure in her chest grew sharper, deeper, spreading like wildfire. Stay with me, he urged. Don't close your eyes yet. She tried to hold on. She really did. But fear raw and icy dragged her under. The car lurched to a stop at the hospital entrance. Nurses rushed out with a stretcher as Sebastian carried her out himself, refusing to wait for assistance. She collapsed on Fifth Avenue, he told them. Pregnant, heart history, possible stress episode. The medical team moved swiftly, pushing her through the sliding doors, their voices urgent and overlapping. Sebastian followed until a nurse held out a hand. Sir, you can't go beyond this point. He hesitated, breathing hard, frustration storming beneath his calm exterior. But he stepped back, watching as Caroline disappeared into the emergency wing. For a moment, the billionaire who commanded boardrooms and intimidated entire industries stood helpless in a fluorescent-lit hallway, fists clenched at his sides. He didn't even know her name. But something about the way she collapsed, as if the world had abandoned her, hid a place in him he didn't know still existed. And then his phone buzzed. It was a message that would change everything. A name, a connection, a history he never expected. And suddenly, Sebastian Pierce realized Caroline's tragedy wasn't random. She was tied to the one man he'd sworn never to forgive. Caroline woke to the sharp scent of antiseptic and the low hum of machines. The lights above her were too bright, the sheets too crisp, the air too cold. For a moment, she didn't know where she was until she felt the weight of wires taped to her skin and heard the faint, rhythmic beeping beside her. A hospital. She'd made it, or someone had gotten her there. Her throat felt dry as paper when she whispered, Hello? A nurse appeared, smiling gently. You're awake. Good. Just take it slow, sweetheart. Did I faint? Caroline murmured. You collapsed from a cardiac stress episode, the nurse said. Your heart rate was dangerously unstable, but you're stable now. Stable, a word she hadn't felt in hours. The door opened again, and Dr. Elena Ramirez, a calm woman with warm eyes and a confident stride, entered while scanning a tablet. Miss Mercer, I need you to stay relaxed while I explain what's happening. You gave us a scare. Caroline nodded, though her chest tightened with dread. My baby? Is the baby okay? Dr. Ramirez hesitated just long enough for fear to flood Caroline's bloodstream. There's more than one baby, the doctor said softly. Caroline blinked. What? What do you mean? You're pregnant with triplets? The room spun. Triplets. 3 lives depending on her heart, her failing, fragile heart. Dr. Ramirez continued, voice careful and controlled. With a healthy heart, triplets are already high risk, but your condition increases the danger. You'll need monitoring, reduced stress, and specialized care. Any emotional shock could trigger another episode. An emotional shock like being abandoned and thrown out onto the street. Caroline felt tears burn her eyes. I don't have insurance anymore. My husband, my ex, terminated everything. Dr. Ramirez exchanged a glance with the nurse, then pulled up another document. That's already been handled, she said. Caroline frowned. Handled? By who? Before the doctor could answer, there was a firm knock at the door. It slid open, revealing the man she barely remembered from the street. Sebastian Pierce. He stepped in slowly, hands in his coat pockets, measuring her expression with a gaze that was both cautious and concerned. The room seemed to shrink around him, his presence too large, too composed, too deliberate. You're awake, he said quietly. Caroline swallowed. You saved me. He shook his head. I just helped you get where you needed to be. Dr. Ramirez cleared her throat. Mr. Pierce has authorized full coverage for your care and for the babies. You won't have to worry about cost. Caroline stared at him, stunned. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Sebastian hesitated, jaw flexing slightly. I know enough. I know someone left you in a dangerous situation, and I don't tolerate that kind of cruelty. His voice carried a controlled fury, as if he were fighting an old, buried wound. But there's more, he added, his tone shifting. When the hospital requested emergency authorization, they sent me your name. And? Caroline whispered. And I recognized it. Her pulse quickened. How? Sebastian stepped closer, eyes darkening with something like revelation and anger. Because Grant Holloway once destroyed one of my companies, and now it seems he's trying to destroy you too. Caroline froze, breath hitching. What are you saying? She whispered. Sebastian's gaze held hers steady, unflinching. I'm saying this isn't coincidence, Caroline. Grant didn't just walk away from you. He paused, voice dropping to a low intensity. He walked straight into a war he doesn't know he's already lost. Grant Holloway always knew how to weaponize a spotlight. 2 days after abandoning Caroline, he stepped onto a red carpet in Beverly Hills, as if he'd never carried a shred of responsibility in his life. Flashing cameras erupted like fireworks the moment he appeared, impeccably dressed in a tailored Tom Ford tuxedo, jaw sharp as if sculpted for the cover of a magazine. And beside him, clinging to his arm with the confidence of someone who'd just claimed her prize, was Naomi Laurent, the 23-year-old international model he'd left everything for. Reporters swarmed. Grant, over here. Is this your new partner? What happened with your wife? Grant flashed a smile polished enough to cut glass. My personal life is evolving, he said smoothly. And sometimes, evolution means letting go of things that no longer fit your future. Things. Not people. Not family. Not the pregnant wife he'd abandoned. Just things. Naomi giggled on cue, pressing her cheek against his shoulder. We're really happy, she chimed, playing the charming ingenue. Cameras clicked wildly, eating up every angle. Glamour, scandal, youth, wealth. It was everything the tabloids lived for. Inside the ballroom, the scene grew even more grotesque. Grant kissed Naomi for the cameras longer than necessary, purely for show. He angled her face to the light, making sure every photographer captured the diamond necklace he'd bought her using a corporate expense account. The crowd buzzed. Aren't he and his wife still married? I heard she had issues. He traded up, Good for him. She was too plain for him anyway. The words flowed like poison, painting Caroline as a forgettable chapter in Grant's glamorous new narrative. Grant didn't correct a single lie. In fact, he added one of his own. During a press interview, he sighed dramatically. Caroline struggled emotionally. I tried to help, but some people can't handle the pressures of my career. I wish her the best. Naomi squeezed his arm sympathetically, pretending to console him for walking away from the wife he had supposedly tried to support. The audience nodded, murmuring with sympathy for him, the poor man who had endured such hardship. It was a narrative crafted with surgical cruelty. A narrative designed to erase Caroline entirely. But across the country, in a quiet hospital room in Manhattan, Caroline saw the headline appear on the muted TV mounted to her wall. Grant Holloway debuts new love, says ex-wife, couldn't handle the pressure. Her heart clenched, not physically this time, but emotionally, painfully, deeply. She tasted humiliation so sharp it nearly cut her breath in half. Dr. Ramirez rushed to check her monitors as Caroline wiped the tears she'd sworn she wouldn't shed anymore. Sebastian Pierce stood in the doorway, arms crossed, jaw tight, watching every second of the broadcast. His expression wasn't pity, it was wrath. Controlled, quiet, dangerous wrath. He's destroying your reputation, Sebastian said, voice low. Caroline swallowed hard. He always knew how to make himself the hero. Sebastian stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. Then it's time someone rewrites the story. She looked up at him, exhaustion deep in her bones. Sebastian, I can barely stand. I don't have his power. I don't have his money. You don't need his money, Sebastian said, each word deliberate. You have something far more powerful. What? She whispered. He leaned in slightly, eyes burning with certainty. The truth and someone willing to go to war for you. The hospital room felt smaller with every passing hour. Machines hummed softly around Caroline, their blinking lights a constant reminder that her body was fighting battles she hadn't chosen. Each breath felt heavier than the last, weighted with fear, shame, and the unbearable image of Grant smiling beside Naomi on national TV. She turned her face toward the window, where Manhattan's skyline glittered under a darkening sky. Once, she'd believed she would build a life in this city, a home, a family, a future. Now she felt like a ghost drifting through a place that didn't remember her. Her heart monitor beeped faster. Caroline, Dr. Ramirez warned gently, you need to keep your stress levels down. You're carrying 3 lives. Every spike is dangerous. I'm trying, Caroline whispered, but her voice cracked. It hurts. All of it. The doctor sighed, squeezing her arm with kindness that only made the pain sharper. You are stronger than you think, but you cannot carry all this alone. When Dr. Ramirez left, Caroline closed her eyes. Silence wrapped around her like a heavy blanket, leaving her alone with memories she didn't want but couldn't escape. Grant's indifference. Naomi's perfect smile. The headlines painting her as unstable, weak, disposable. Her breathing quickened again. The room spun slightly. She pressed a trembling hand over her belly. I'm sorry, she whispered to her babies. I'm trying for you. I'm trying so hard. A knock sounded. She didn't open her eyes. She didn't have the strength. The chair beside the bed creaked as someone sat down. She turned slightly and found Sebastian Pierce watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher, something fierce and unexpectedly gentle. You don't have to pretend you're okay, he said quietly. Caroline swallowed hard. I'm not pretending. I'm holding on. Barely, he countered softly. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. Why are you here? You don't owe me anything. Sebastian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Maybe not, but I don't walk away when someone is drowning. His jaw tightened, especially not when the man responsible is someone I've been waiting years to expose. Caroline blinked, startled. Grant hurt you too? He did more than hurt me, Sebastian replied. He stole from me, lied to regulators, sabotaged a partnership that cost hundreds of jobs. His eyes darkened. He walked away clean, while others paid the price. Caroline's breath hitched. So helping me is retaliation? No, Sebastian said firmly. Helping you is the right thing. What happens to Grant afterward is simply long overdue. She let out a shaky exhale. I don't know how to fight him. I'm barely holding myself together. How can I stand against a man like him? You don't have to stand alone, Sebastian said. Let me help you. Caroline shook her head weakly. I don't want to be someone else's burden. His voice dropped, softer than she'd ever heard it. You're not a burden, Caroline. Someone failed you. That's not the same thing. Her chest tightened, not from fear this time, but from the unfamiliar warmth of being believed. She opened her mouth to thank him when a sudden, sharp pain stabbed across her ribs. She gasped, clutching her side. Sebastian shot to his feet. Caroline? The monitor shrieked as her pulse skyrocketed, her vision tunneled. The room blurred. Nurses rushed in as Sebastian stepped back, alarm flashing across his usually composed features. Her BP is crashing move. Caroline's world dimmed, voices fading into echoes. Her last glimpse was Sebastian's face, concern carved into every line. Then everything went dark. And when she woke again, nothing in her life would ever be the same. The first thing Caroline felt when she woke wasn't pain, it was silence. A deep, padded, almost too soft silence. She blinked into a dimly lit hospital suite, far nicer than the room she remembered collapsing in. The sheets were thicker, the lights warmer, the air quieter, calmer. This wasn't a standard hospital room. It felt private, protected. A soft beep echoed at her bedside. Her fingers twitched, brushing against an oxygen tube. Panic stirred until a gentle voice broke through. You're okay, Dr. Ramirez said, stepping into view. You had another cardiac event, but we stabilized you. Caroline took a shaky breath. My babies? The doctor smiled. Still strong, still fighting, just like their mother. Caroline closed her eyes in relief, but the moment shattered when she remembered Grant's interview, Naomi's smirk, the humiliation broadcast across the country. Her chest tightened again, but Dr. Ramirez raised a hand. You're safe here, and your stress triggers are being monitored closely. Then she added, your new accommodations were arranged by Mr. Pierce. Caroline tried to sit up. I can't accept that. I don't even know him. He insisted, the doctor said. And frankly, it's the only reason we can provide the care you need. Before Caroline could respond, the door opened with a soft click. Sebastian Pierce walked in. He wasn't wearing a suit this time, just dark slacks, a charcoal sweater, and an expression that held too much restraint for a man used to controlling entire industries. He paused at the foot of her bed, giving her space. How are you feeling? He asked. Caroline's voice cracked, embarrassed, overwhelmed, and grateful. But I can't let you pay for my care. I don't want to be indebted to anyone. Sebastian shook his head. This isn't a debt. It's a necessary intervention. That's easy for you to say, she muttered. You don't know what it's like to have everything ripped away. Something flickered in his eyes. You'd be surprised. He sat in the chair beside her, leaning forward with a seriousness that made her heartbeat skip for reasons unrelated to her condition. You need long-term protection, he said. Medical, legal, and personal. Grant is already rewriting the narrative. If he keeps going, you'll be destroyed before you even leave this hospital. Caroline swallowed hard. So what do you want from me? Why help me at all? A muscle in his jaw tightened. Because your husband did something similar to people I cared about. Because he caused damage he never paid for. He paused. And because I don't intend to watch him do it again, this time to someone who did absolutely nothing to deserve it. Caroline stared at him, breath-catching. I don't want revenge. You don't need revenge, Sebastian said quietly. You need survival. And the only way to survive a man like Grant Holloway is with someone more powerful standing next to you. She shook her head. I can't think about power. I can barely think about breathing. Sebastian reached into his coat and pulled out a simple folder. Thin, crisp, intimidating. This, he said, setting it gently on her lap, is a protection contract. Nothing binding your future, nothing exploitative. Just legal authority for me to shield you, your medical care, your privacy, your unborn children from Grant's reach. Caroline stared at it as if it were a live wire. You'd do all this for me? She whispered. I already did, Sebastian replied. This just makes it official. Her hand hovered over the folder, trembling. Why me? She asked again. Sebastian held her gaze, unblinking. Because someone needs to protect you, he said. And until you can protect yourself, I will. Caroline's fingers brushed the edge of the contract. Her heart thudded, once uncertain, terrified, hopeful. Then the door burst open. a nurse rushing inside. "Mr. Pierce, you need to see this. It's the news." Sebastian turned sharply. Caroline's pulse spiked. Grant Holloway had just escalated the war publicly, viciously, and with a lie that could destroy her future. The headline on the hospital TV might as well have been a blade. "Grant Holloway, my ex-wife is unstable. I fear for the safety of my future family." Caroline felt the blood drain from her face. Future family. He meant Naomi. He meant the paparazzi parade he'd chosen over the vows he'd broken. And now he was framing her as a threat. She pressed a trembling hand over her chest. "He's trying to paint me as dangerous. If that sticks, my babies. They won't be taken from you," Sebastian said sharply, stepping in front of the TV and turning it off with a hard click. His tone left no room for argument. "But we can't fight him from a hospital room." Caroline blinked, confused. "What does that mean?" "It means we're getting you somewhere safe. Somewhere private. Somewhere Grant can't touch you." She frowned. "Where could that possibly be?" Sebastian didn't answer with words. Instead, he made a call. His voice was clipped, efficient. A moment later, the hospital staff began moving with unusual speed. Discreet, coordinated, almost rehearsed. Within an hour, Caroline was carefully transferred into a private medical SUV, accompanied by a specialized nurse and a portable monitor. The vehicle glided onto the FDR drive, then toward the highway leading east. Caroline watched the city fade into the distance, skyscrapers shrinking, bridges falling away behind them, the chaos of Manhattan replaced by vast stretches of winter-touched trees. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. Sebastian finally answered, "To my place. In the Hamptons." She swallowed. "I can't stay in your house." "You can," he said simply. "And you will." She stared at him, confused by the mix of sternness and compassion in his voice. "Why are you doing all this? Really?" He looked out the window, jaw tightening. "Because I know what it's like to have your life ripped away by someone who thinks they're untouchable." Caroline didn't know what to say. When they finally reached the estate, she understood why he brought her there. The Pierce residence wasn't just a house, it was a fortress of tranquility. A long driveway curved through frost-tipped pines, opening into a breathtaking view of a modern glass mansion overlooking the winter ocean. The air smelled of sea salt and cedar. Inside, the house was warm, quiet, peaceful. High ceilings, clean lines, soft lighting, and the distant sound of waves. For the first time in days, Caroline felt the faintest hint of safety. A private medical suite had already been prepared on the second floor, overlooking the shoreline. A nurse greeted her with a gentle smile, helping her settle into the plush, adjustable bed. Caroline looked around, overwhelmed. "This is too much." "It's exactly what you need," Sebastian said. "Your heart needs calm. Your babies need stability. You'll have both here." As the nurse checked her vitals, Caroline watched Sebastian cross the room, his presence grounding her in a way she didn't expect. "You barely know me," she whispered. He paused, turning toward her with an expression that softened just enough to show something human beneath the billionaire armor. "I know enough," he said. "I know you were thrown away by a man who didn't deserve you. I know you're carrying 3 lives he doesn't even have the decency to acknowledge. And I know your story isn't ending in a hospital with the world calling you unstable." Caroline's eyes stung. "Sebastian," he stepped closer. "You're not alone anymore. Not while I'm here." For the first time, she believed him. But just as peace began to settle over her, the nurse entered again, holding a phone with a pale, shaken expression. "Caroline, it's Dr. Ramirez. She says you need to hear this immediately." Caroline's heart lurched. What she heard next would threaten everything she was finally beginning to rebuild. Caroline's fingers trembled as she held the phone to her ear, the ocean wind brushing against the windows of the Hamptons suite. Dr. Ramirez's voice crackled on the line, steady, but lined with urgency. "Caroline, something came across your medical file when we transferred your records. You need to hear this." Caroline's breath hitched. Her medical file had been a quiet battlefield since Grant cut her insurance, but the doctor's tone felt different, heavier. "What is it?" Caroline whispered. "It's unusual," Dr. Ramirez continued. "Someone tried to access your confidential records this morning. Someone without authorization." Caroline froze. "Who?" There was a pause. "Your husband, Grant Holloway." The air left her lungs in a single, sharp exhale. Grant, after abandoning her, humiliating her, calling her unstable, was now trying to dig into the one thing that could legally jeopardize her and the babies. Sebastian, standing near the doorway, stiffened when he saw Caroline's face drain of color. What happened? She shook her head, overwhelmed. Grant tried to pull my medical history. Sebastian's expression hardened instantly. He's building a case. He wants custody, leverage. Or worse, he wants evidence to prove the children aren't his responsibility. Caroline pressed a hand against her abdomen protectively. He would never win custody. He doesn't even want them. That doesn't matter, Sebastian said, stepping closer. Men like him don't need to want the thing, they just need to control it. Dr. Ramirez continued, voice firm. Before the system flagged his access attempt, I ran a check to see what he was looking for. And I found something else, something I'm not sure you know. Caroline frowned. Something else? Yes, the doctor said. A file from Holloway Capital's private insurance program, something they should never have had access to. Caroline swallowed. What was it? Sebastian leaned forward, sensing the weight of the moment. Dr. Ramirez inhaled sharply. It was a contract you supposedly signed 6 months ago, declaring that you agreed not to pursue child support or spousal benefits in the event of separation. And more concerning, a clause stating that any child you carried was not guaranteed to be biologically linked to Grant Holloway. Caroline's mind went blank. What? She whispered. I never signed anything like that. I know, Dr. Ramirez said, because the signature is forged, and badly. Sebastian's eyes turned to steel. Grant preemptively framed her, months in advance. Caroline shook her head, disbelief turning to sickness. He planned this? Before he even left? Yes, the doctor said grimly. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he intended for this document to ruin you. Caroline's stomach knotted. Her heart pounded. This wasn't just cruelty, this was strategy. Calculated, cold, and monstrous. Sebastian took the phone from her gently. Dr. Ramirez, make sure the document is secured. We'll need it. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous, and forward everything to my legal team immediately. Understood, she replied. When the call ended, Caroline stared at her trembling hands. He forged my signature, she whispered. He tried to cut me off legally before he even left me. He was planning my destruction while I was still sleeping next to him. Sebastian moved closer, his voice softer but no less intense. This is bigger than abandonment. It's fraud. It's manipulation. It's a federal offense if we can tie it to financial documents. He hesitated. Caroline, did you ever sign anything else at his office? Anything he rushed you through? Her breath caught in her throat. There was something. A memory surfaced, a stack of routine HR updates. He'd pressured her to sign late at night, saying it was just compliance paperwork. Her pulse spiked. I think I signed something, Sebastian. Months ago. I didn't read it. I trusted him. Sebastian's face shifted into something dark, something lethal in its stillness. Then we're going to find out exactly what he made you sign, he said. And when we do, Grant Holloway will wish he never laid a finger on you. But before Caroline could respond, a house alarm beeped softly, an alert Sebastian had never heard triggered before. A security breach. Someone had just stepped onto the property, someone who shouldn't be there. The shrill echo of the security alarm sliced through the quiet of the Hamptons estate. Caroline froze, her heart lurching painfully against her ribs. She glanced at Sebastian, who had already crossed the room in 2 strides, checking the wall-mounted panel. His voice dropped. Motion detected at the east gate. Someone breached the property line. Caroline's pulse spiked. Grant? Sebastian's jaw clenched. Or someone working for him. Before he could say more, a violent pressure tightened across Caroline's abdomen. She gasped, bending forward. Caroline? Sebastian turned instantly. A wave of pain rippled through her, sharper, deeper, nothing like the stress cramps she had experienced before. This pain had purpose, urgency. Her voice trembled. Something's wrong. It's too early. It's too early. The nurse rushed in at the sound of her cry, eyes widening. She's contracting, hard. But she's only, Sebastian began. I know, the nurse said sharply, but the babies aren't waiting. Caroline's vision blurred as another contraction seized her, stronger than the first. She clutched the bed rail, sweat beading across her forehead. Sebastian, she breathed, tears forming. I'm scared. He gripped her hand. I'm right here. I'm not leaving. The nurse pressed a button on the wall. "We need the on-call obstetric team now." The room erupted into motion. Medical staff poured in with carts, oxygen tanks, fetal monitors. Voices overlapped in controlled chaos. "Triplets high risk. Heart rate elevated. Prepare the transport bed." Caroline's chest tightened again, but this time not from fear. Her babies, 3 tiny lives she hadn't even met yet, were coming, whether she was ready or not. A doctor appeared at her side, already pulling on gloves. "Caroline, it's Dr. Bishop. Listen carefully. Your body has gone into early labor. We'll do everything we can to slow it, but given your heart condition, we may need to deliver tonight." Tonight. The words struck like lightning. Caroline's breath hitched. "They're too small." "We'll have NICU teams ready," Dr. Bishop assured her. "Your job is to stay as calm as possible." Another contraction tore through her, nearly lifting her off the bed. She cried out, gripping Sebastian's hand so tightly her knuckles whitened. "I can't," she gasped. "Yes, you can," Sebastian said, leaning over her. His voice was low, steady, anchoring her against the storm ripping through her body. "You're stronger than every terrible thing that's happened to you, and you're stronger than him." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Don't let Grant take them." Sebastian's eyes hardened, fierce and unwavering. "Over my dead body." The med team rolled her onto a transport bed and rushed her down the hallway. The estate's private medical wing blurred around her polished floors. Soft lights, distant thunder of ocean waves. A surreal battlefield. Caroline focused on Sebastian's voice, matching her breathing. In, out, in, out. The contractions came faster now, leaving no space between them. Then the doctor called out, "We're losing fetal heart variability on baby B. Move." The doors to the surgical room burst open. They lifted Caroline onto the operating table, masks and lights swirling above her. A nurse pressed an oxygen mask to her face. "Deep breaths, sweetheart. Deep breaths." Caroline's heart monitor beeped erratically. Fear wrapped like a fist around her chest. Sebastian squeezed her hand one last time before being pulled back by medical staff. "Caroline," he called, "I'm right outside. I'm not going anywhere." The doctor's voice cut through the haze. "Prep for emergency C-section now." Caroline's world spun. Her babies, her heart, her future. Everything collided in one impossible moment. And then, a cry. A tiny, piercing cry. Then another. Then another. 3 voices. 3 lives. Her babies had arrived. But before relief could settle, Dr. Bishop's voice sharpened urgently off camera. "Her blood pressure, get the crash cart. We're losing her." The world returned to Caroline in fragments, soft beeping, muted voices, and the faint smell of antiseptic. Her eyelids felt like they were weighed down by stone, but she forced them open, blinking at the blurry ceiling above her. The surgical lights were off. The chaos was gone. She was in a recovery room now, wrapped in warmth, an IV running into her arm. She was alive. Her first panic-stricken thought wasn't about her heart. It was her babies. She tried to sit up, but pain radiated across her abdomen, sharp, burning, reminding her of the emergency C-section. A nurse rushed over. "Easy, sweetheart," she murmured, adjusting the bed controls. "You're stable. The surgery was successful." Caroline's voice cracked. "My babies? Are they okay?" A warm smile spread across the nurse's face. 3 strong little fighters. They're in the NICU, but all of them are breathing on their own. They came early, but they're tougher than they look. Tears filled Caroline's eyes. Relief washed over her so deeply she almost sobbed. "Can I see them?" "In a bit," the nurse said kindly. "We just need to finish monitoring you." Caroline leaned back, her heart aching with love she hadn't known she was capable of. 3 lives, 3 miracles, and they were hers. The door to the recovery room opened quietly. Caroline expected a doctor, but her breath caught when she saw Sebastian. He looked exhausted. His hair was tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it non-stop. His usually composed expression was fractured, raw with concern. "You're awake," he said, his voice low and tight. She managed a small smile. "I heard the babies crying. I thought I dreamed it." "You didn't," he said softly. "They're perfect. Tiny, but perfect. You scared the hell out of us." There was something in his eyes, something warm, trembling, relieved, that made her chest tighten for reasons entirely unrelated to her condition. "You stayed?" she whispered. His answer came without hesitation. There was never a chance I'd leave. She exhaled shakily. Sebastian, thank you for everything. He stepped closer, but stopped when her monitors beeped in warning, her emotions still too fragile, her heart still too reactive. Save your strength, he murmured. There will be time to talk later. The nurse cleared her throat. Mr. Pierce, you can stay for a few minutes, but she needs rest. He nodded, then something shifted behind him. A shadow in the doorway. At first, Caroline assumed it was another nurse, but when the figure stepped forward, her blood ran cold. Grant. His presence poisoned the room instantly. He wasn't wearing the polished arrogance of Beverly Hills tonight. His eyes were darker, red-rimmed, his jaw tight with something vicious and simmering. What the hell is going on, Caroline? He hissed. Caroline's pulse spiked. The monitor screamed in alarm. Sebastian moved instantly, stepping between them like a shield. You're not welcome here, he said. Grant laughed a sharp, ugly sound. You think you can hide her from me? You think I don't know she faked half this medical crap just to trap me? Caroline felt the sting of those words like a blade. Fake? Sebastian repeated slowly, dangerously. She almost died. Grant's eyes narrowed. I want to see the babies. Caroline froze. Her breath stopped. No, she whispered. You don't get to use us for your image. Grant smirked. Then maybe you'd like to explain why someone sent me an anonymous message saying one of those babies might not even be mine. Caroline's heart stopped. Sebastian spun toward her. Grant leaned in, voice dripping venom. So tell me, Caroline, who's the father? For a moment, the room fell into a silence so sharp it felt like broken glass. Caroline lay frozen in her hospital bed, still too weak to sit upright without assistance, yet somehow enduring an attack that would have shattered someone twice as strong. Grant's accusation hovered in the air like poison. Who's the father? His voice carried that smug, weaponized confidence he always used when he wanted control. Before Caroline could speak, Sebastian stepped forward, cold fury radiating from him. You have 5 seconds to leave, he warned quietly, before security removes you in a way your reputation will never recover from. Grant scoffed. You think you can intimidate me? I'm still her husband. Ex-husband, Caroline said, her voice hoarse but steady. You made sure of that. Grant's jaw twitched, but he pressed on, leaning closer with the cruelty of someone who'd convinced himself he still held power. I got an anonymous message, he said. Someone told me Caroline wasn't faithful, and I want the truth. Caroline's heart monitor beeped faster. The nurse shot him a warning glare. Sir, you're upsetting the patient. Grant ignored her. Caroline, tell me you didn't cheat on me with who? Sebastian cut in. Say it, I dare you. Grant's gaze snapped to him. With you, obviously. Why else would a billionaire play savior to a nobody? Sebastian's laugh was low, humorless. Trust me, Holloway, if I'd been in her life before your betrayal, she never would have ended up with a man like you. Grant lunged forward, rage twisting across his face, but security summoned by the nurse burst through the door before he reached them. Sir, you need to leave immediately. Grant pointed at Caroline as he was dragged back. This isn't over. Those babies might not even be mine, and if they're not, she'll pay for lying. Caroline felt something inside her snap, not fear, not despair, but anger. Real, blazing anger. You abandoned me, she said, voice trembling but powerful. You humiliated me, you forged documents to protect yourself, and now you're pretending to care about the truth? Grant froze at that. Sebastian didn't. What documents? He asked, sharply. Grant's eyes flicked away, revealing everything. The security guards escorted him out as he thrashed and shouted, his fury echoing down the hallway. When the door finally closed, the room sank into stunned quiet. Caroline sagged against her pillows, exhausted. Sebastian moved to her bedside. Don't listen to anything, he said. Her eyes filled with tears, rage, heartbreak, exhaustion. Why is he doing this? Why won't he just let me go? Because he's losing control, Sebastian said softly. And men like him destroy everything when they spiral. The nurse adjusted Caroline's monitors. Your heart rate is high. You need to rest. Caroline closed her eyes, trying to breathe, but Grant's words kept echoing. Who's the father? Sebastian pulled the chair closer and sat beside her, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Caroline, you and I both know the babies are his, but Grant will use any tactic to discredit you, which means we need to get ahead of him. She looked at him weakly. How? by uncovering everything he's hiding before he can weaponize it. Caroline swallowed. Sebastian, there's something I haven't told you. He leaned in. What is it? The paperwork he made me sign. The night he said it was routine compliance. I didn't read it. Tears welled again. I think it was part of his plan. Sebastian's face hardened, cold, sharp, dangerous. We'll get those documents, he said. And when we do, Grant Holloway will never threaten you again. But before Caroline could respond, her phone, still cracked from her fall on Fifth Avenue, buzzed on the bedside table. A message. Unknown number. She lifted it with trembling fingers. The text read, Your husband isn't the only one forging documents. You need to look at your own signature again. Caroline's breath stopped. Someone else knew far more about her past and her marriage than she ever imagined. 2 weeks after the emergency C-section, Caroline stood at the panoramic window of the Hamptons estate, staring at the silver line of the winter ocean. The babies were stable in the neonatal unit of a private Manhattan hospital. Sebastian arranged, safe, monitored, protected. Every day she grew stronger, physically and emotionally. But today wasn't about healing. Today was about reclaiming her life. We don't have to do this yet, Sebastian said from behind her, his voice calm but laced with worry. You're still recovering. Caroline turned toward him. Her posture was delicate but determined. Wrapped in a cream cashmere coat he insisted she wear to stay warm. I need to face this. I won't spend the rest of my life hiding while Grant destroys everything. Sebastian searched her face for hesitation. He found none. All right, he said softly. Then we do it on your terms. When the black Mercedes S-Class pulled up to Manhattan, the city glistened with morning frost. Fifth Avenue reflected sunlight like shards of glass, sharp, dazzling, unforgiving. But today, Caroline wasn't the broken woman collapsing on the sidewalk. She stepped out of the car with steady legs and a quiet, undeniable strength. Her posture alone felt like a declaration. I survived what tried to kill me. She wore a simple, elegant outfit, soft beige wool, tailored pants, hair pulled back. Not glamorous, not flashy, but powerful in its simplicity. Pedestrians glanced at her as she passed, drawn by something they couldn't quite name. Not fame, not beauty. Something deeper. Purpose. Sebastian walked beside her, but slightly behind, deliberately allowing her to take the lead. Their first destination, the neonatal wing, where the triplets rested in their incubators like tiny warriors made of light and hope. Nurses greeted her warmly. Your babies are fighters, one of them said. Just like their mom. Caroline leaned over baby A's incubator, her hand pressed softly against the glass. I'm fighting for you, she whispered. All of you. After the visit, Sebastian asked quietly, ready for the next part? Caroline inhaled, steadying herself. Yes. They headed to the law offices of Haldon and Reese, one of Manhattan's most elite firms. Sebastian had arranged everything. Marble floors, glass walls, quiet whispers of money and power. This was Grant's world. But now she was stepping into it on her own terms. Inside, a senior partner greeted her. Miss Mercer, Mr. Pierce briefed us. We've reviewed the forged documents. We'll move forward. Caroline straightened. I want everything Grant did exposed. Every lie, every forgery, every manipulation. The partner nodded. We'll ensure the truth is not only clear, it's undeniable. For the first time, Caroline felt the slightest shift in the universe, like the balance was correcting itself. Leaving the firm, she and Sebastian walked toward the waiting car. Manhattan hummed around them, alive with possibility. For a moment, she allowed herself to breathe. But then, a camera flash exploded in her face. Caroline, over here. Is it true Grant abandoned you while pregnant? Are the babies his? Did Mr. Pierce take you in? A swarm of paparazzi surrounded them. Caroline's chest tightened. Not again. Not like before. But before panic could rise, Sebastian slipped an arm protectively around her shoulders, guiding her through the chaos with effortless command. Step back, he ordered the photographers, ice in his voice. Now. But the hardest blow didn't come from a reporter. It came from the giant LED billboard above the sidewalk. A new headline. A new photo. Grant Holloway. Naomi Laurent. Smiling. Triumphant. The headline read, Holloway speaks. I fear my ex-wife is unsafe for our family. I will fight for custody. Caroline stopped breathing. Sebastian's expression darkened. Grant had just declared war publicly, mercilessly, against the mother of his children. The billboard towered over Manhattan like a personal attack. Grant's smug face beside Naomi's flawless smile, their hands entwined, the headline blazing across the screen for the entire city to see. Caroline froze on the sidewalk, her breath catching painfully in her chest. The words tore through her like a blade. "I will fight for custody." Custody. Of the babies he never wanted. Of the babies he abandoned. Of the babies he accused her of lying about. People around them murmured, whispering as Caroline's image joined the broadcast, a candid photo from the hospital, taken without her knowledge, showing her exhausted, pale, vulnerable. Grant had turned her worst moment into ammunition. Sebastian stepped closer, his body shielding her from the growing wave of paparazzi. "Caroline, don't look at it." "How can I not?" she whispered. "He's rewriting the truth again. He's turning the whole world against me." Sebastian's jaw clenched, his expression carved from fury. "Then it's time we give the world something else to talk about." Before she could ask what he meant, he gently took her hand and guided her into the waiting car. The driver sped away, leaving the chaos behind as Sebastian made a call, his voice low, commanding. "Prepare the penthouse." Caroline blinked in confusion. "Why are we going to your penthouse?" He met her gaze. "Because you need to speak for yourself. And you're doing it tonight." The Pierce penthouse on Park Avenue wasn't just luxurious, it was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Manhattan skyline in gold and violet, the sunset spilling across sleek marble floors and soft leather furniture. The space hummed with quiet power. Sebastian turned to face her. "Grant uses the media to control the story. But you," he paused, stepping toward her, "you deserve the chance to reclaim your voice." Caroline swallowed, her pulse unsteady. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." "You are," he said, his voice gentle but unwavering. "You survived him. You survived surgery. You gave birth to 3 premature babies, and you're still standing." Something in her chest softened, warmed, steadied. "And," he added quietly, "you don't have to do it alone." He stepped closer, pulling something from his coat pocket, a small black velvet box. Caroline's breath caught when he opened it. Inside was a ring unlike anything she had ever seen. An antique Cartier design. Emerald-cut diamond encircled by smaller stones. Elegant, rare, timeless. Her heart trembled. "Sebastian, what is this?" "It isn't a proposal," he said softly. "Not yet. This is a promise." He took her hand, his voice dropping to a tenderness she'd never heard from him before. "A promise that I will protect you, that I will stand beside you, that I will help you rebuild everything Grant tried to destroy." Tears blurred her vision. "Why me?" "Because you're worth fighting for." Her breath escaped in a shudder. Then he slipped the ring gently onto her finger, not as a binding commitment, but as a statement, a declaration, a shield. "Wear it tonight," he said. "Let the world see that you were never abandoned, you were chosen." Caroline looked at the ring, shimmering like captured starlight. For the first time in a long time, she felt not broken, but powerful. But before she could speak, the penthouse security system beeped a notification flashing on the wall screen. "Breaking news," the anchor announced. "Grant Holloway has issued a formal legal motion against his ex-wife, effective immediately." Sebastian's expression hardened. Caroline's blood ran cold. Grant's next move wasn't just a headline, it was a direct attack, and it was already in motion. Caroline stood frozen in the center of Sebastian's penthouse as the news alert echoed from the wall screen. The city lights flickered behind her, painting her silhouette in silver and gold as the reporter's voice cut through the room like ice. "Grant Holloway has filed an emergency custody motion, citing concerns for the welfare of the newborn triplets." According to court documents, Holloway alleges that Miss Mercer is mentally unfit and may have endangered the children prior to their birth. Caroline's knees nearly buckled. He's saying I endangered them?" she whispered. Sebastian muted the screen instantly, his eyes burning with a fury she had never seen in him. "He's fabricating grounds for custody," Sebastian said. "He wants control, not responsibility." Caroline pressed a trembling hand to her chest, trying to breathe through the rising panic. "He didn't even show up at the hospital. He didn't ask about them. He called me unstable in public. And that," Sebastian said, stepping closer, "is exactly why he's desperate. He's losing control of the narrative." She shook her head. How can he twist everything so easily? Because he's done it for years, Sebastian replied quietly. To employees, to partners, to your medical file. This is who he is. Caroline felt tears sting her eyes, not from weakness, but from exhaustion, the kind that runs bone deep after fighting too many battles in too few days. I can't lose my babies, she whispered. They're all I have. Sebastian placed a steady hand on her shoulder, grounding her. You won't lose them. Not while I'm here. But Caroline wasn't convinced. Her heart still carried too many wounds, too much doubt. I trusted Grant once, she said softly, and he destroyed everything. You made the mistake of trusting the wrong man, Sebastian said, but don't let that stop you from trusting the right people now. She looked up at him, and for the first time, she didn't see the billionaire everyone feared. She saw the man who had carried her off a sidewalk, who had stayed through surgeries, who had visited her babies every day she couldn't walk. The man who had put a protective ring on her finger, not as a claim, but as a shield. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. An unknown number again. With dread curling inside her, she opened the message. A video. Grant's voice filled the room. Caroline Mercer is medically unstable, emotionally volatile, and incapable of caring for 3 infants. I'm stepping in because their lives depend on it. The clip was edited heavily, spliced to paint her hospital collapse as a breakdown, her fainting spell as erratic behavior, her emergency surgery as recklessness. Sebastian cursed under his breath. He's staging evidence. The video ended with Grant's cruel smirk. I will not allow my children to be raised by someone who puts them in danger. Caroline choked on a breath. He's lying. He's lying about everything. Yes, Sebastian said, and we're going to prove it. He grabbed his phone. I'm calling my legal team. We're filing a counter motion, presenting the forged documents, the fraudulent insurance forms, the forged signatures, everything. Caroline nodded slowly, strength building inside her like a flame. But before Sebastian could dial, the penthouse elevator chimed, not the private keycard chime, the public one. Someone had overridden the security. Sebastian stiffened. No one should be able to access this floor without my authorization. Caroline's breath caught. Footsteps echoed from the hall. A figure appeared in the doorway. Tall, expensive coat, red hair cascading over her shoulders. Naomi Laurent. The model stepped forward with trembling hands and haunted eyes. She whispered, Caroline. Sebastian, you need to hear the truth about Grant. It's worse than you think. Naomi Laurent stood in the doorway like a ghost of her former self, shaking, hollow-eyed, stripped of the arrogance she once wore like perfume. Her designer coat hung limply around her thin frame, and her makeup, usually immaculate, was smudged as if she'd been crying for hours. Caroline stared at her, stunned. Naomi, what are you doing here? Naomi swallowed hard, glancing anxiously over her shoulder. I didn't know where else to go. Grant's gone too far, and I can't be part of it anymore. Sebastian's expression tightened. If Grant sent you, he didn't, Naomi cut in quickly. He doesn't know I'm here. If he did, I'd probably be dead. Caroline's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Naomi stepped farther into the penthouse, her hands trembling violently. Grant isn't just filing for custody. He's building a case to institutionalize you, Caroline. Caroline felt her knees weaken. Institutionalize? Naomi nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. He wants you declared unfit for life, not just custody, everything. Sebastian's jaw locked. Dangerous. That won't happen. He has forged documents, Naomi said, signed reports, fake evaluations. He even hired a psychiatrist to testify that you showed signs of delusional paranoia. Caroline's blood ran cold. I never even met a psychiatrist. You don't have to, Naomi whispered. He paid her. Sebastian's fist tightened so hard his knuckles blanched. He crossed into criminal territory. Naomi let out a shaky breath. You don't understand. This isn't new. He did the same to his last fiancée. Caroline blinked. His last? What? Naomi looked at her, guilt choking her words. Grant was engaged before you. To a woman named Claire Jennings. She disappeared. He said she left him, but Caroline, she didn't leave. Silence slammed into the room. Caroline whispered, What happened to her? Naomi's voice cracked. He ruined her. He forged documents, claiming she stole money from him. She tried to fight back, but he released photos, emails, everything doctored. She lost her job, her home, her reputation. She moved states and changed her name. Caroline felt sick. And you stayed with him after knowing that? Naomi's lip trembled. I didn't know until it was too late. By the time I saw what he was capable of, She paused. I was afraid to leave. Sebastian's expression softened with a compassion he hadn't shown her before. Naomi, why come here now? Naomi wiped her face. Because Grant is unraveling. The custody play isn't about the babies, it's about his reputation. He thinks Caroline's existence threatens him. He's terrified of what could leak. The fake documents, the insurance fraud, and, she hesitated, voice dropping. And what? Caroline pressed. Naomi opened her purse and pulled out a USB drive. Sebastian's eyes narrowed. What is that? Proof, Naomi whispered. Of what Grant did to Claire, of what he planned to do to Caroline, and she looked directly at Caroline, of why he forged your signature months before the affair ever went public. Caroline reached out with shaking fingers, but Naomi pulled the USB back slightly. There's something else, she said, voice breaking. Something I didn't know until tonight. What is it? Caroline asked, barely breathing. Naomi stared into her eyes, guilt and fear swirling in her expression. Grant didn't just forge your signature, she whispered. He forged your medical consent forms. Caroline felt her heart stutter. What medical forms? Naomi swallowed. The ones that said you agreed to terminate the pregnancy if complications arose. Caroline gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Sebastian's fury erupted like a storm. He planned to kill the babies. Naomi nodded, tears streaming. He never wanted them, Caroline. Not ever. And when he found out you were carrying 3, a sudden pounding shook the penthouse door. All 3 of them jumped. Security's voice crackled through the intercom. Mr. Pierce, we have a situation. Grant Holloway is downstairs, and he's demanding access. Caroline's heart stopped. Grant had come for her, and this time, he wasn't leaving without blood. The pounding on the penthouse door reverberated through the marble floors like a warning shot. Caroline felt her pulse spike, her breath tightening in her lungs. Naomi shrank back instinctively, clutching the USB as if it were the only thing tethering her to safety. But the pounding grew louder.